Hey there guys, Mike here from Sell Your Service. I want to look at the anatomy of a fantastic, very powerful sales letter from our main man, Mr. Frank Kern here. Frank, I think, is something like ranked like the fourth richest internet marketer, although I don't know how they measure that. He could be the richest, he could be in the top 10. I've absolutely no idea, but he knows his stuff and he writes very, very compelling copy. We prize sales and revenue so much that I think we think they're harder to create than they really are. I think a lot of us overcomplicate the method at which we have to kind of convert a sale on page, and we have very, very complicated sales pages and product pages and demos. And as you can see here, this letter here is about 2,000 words, and I want to go through some of the main points of the structure here and explore why this is so powerful. The reason Frank has made so much money through internet marketing and selling internet products is because he's a fantastic copywriter. Now, I don't know if he wrote this. He may well have done, or he might have one of his team writing. I've got absolutely no idea. But I want to talk about how he's selling an ebook. It's about $6 here. And the reason that this is considered like $1 million sales letter, although he has never called it that, I'm calling it that, is because let's say, because he's not selling 200,000 books like this, all right? He might do, I don't know, but I can't imagine that he would. Maybe he does because he's Frank Kern, you know. But the idea is that if he sells, a couple of thousand books or even 10,000 books at $5, he can then sell something at $100 and then $1,000 and then $10,000 and $100,000, and he works his way to find 10 customers who are willing to spend $100,000 a year with him, and that generates $1 million in revenue for him. And it could have all started from this page here. There's a massive misconception, I think, that you have to be an incredibly skilled and talented copywriter in order to write compelling sales copy, whereas in truth, sticking to a formula and a template, and I'll explore that template with you here. Also writing from your heart, using emotion and using your emotions and your reader's emotions in the sales page. People say, I'm a very logical person. I buy with logic. No one buys with logic. People buy on emotion. Okay, it's that's the fact. Okay, so you can write emotionally, write a conversational style letter, and I'll go through a little bit of that. And also practicing, repeatedly doing this over and over again. Frank's got to where he's got to because he's writing it so consistently and repeatedly. Now, the link is actually frankkernmarketing.com/consulting-clients. I have not written this. I just want to break this down. So I'm actually using Microsoft Edge here, which I'm finding myself using more and more and more for browsing testing. And let's go through some of the high-level pieces. So the overall structure of a sales letter, I have one myself. I use the Oren Klaff Pitch Anything method, which is promise, problem, myth, changing, knife twist solution, about us, promise, guarantee, all this kind of stuff. But it's a lot more simple than that. Okay, it's a lot more simple than that. And the typical structure for a successful sales promotion or sales copy is usually a headline, which we've got here. We then have a lead, which is to say it's basically exploring the offer, or it's making a promise. It's kind of leading you into the rest of the sales letter. And the lead is pretty much this part here. Okay, it's quite short. It's usually about 10% of the sales letter. As I mentioned, this is about a 2,000 word sales letter, so it's not very long. There's hardly any images. There's hardly any formatting. There's only about 3 or 4 different types of text formatting. Then you have your main sales argument, which kind of goes from this header here, this image here, all the way down to it's about here. We have a close as well, which is actually here, so that the sales body will come up to about here. This is where we'll have the close. We then have a guarantee, which is very, very powerful, and a PS. There it is. Now, I'll be 100% honest with you. Obviously, I've been scanning through this and making sure that I can talk through this page, but that was so quick. That it follows the successful sales promotion kind of checklist that the American Institute of Copywriters gives. It's what Digital Marketer gives. Pam Foster, in her Digital Marketer certification on becoming a copywriting master, uses this same outline. I want to go through this. So first of all, we have our headline. Okay, now the headline here needs to follow 4 very, very specific, they call them the 4 U's, which is unique, useful, urgent, and ultra specific. So I'll go through those again. Unique, useful, urgent, and ultra specific. So what it does here is we've got a new book reveals how to sell high ticket consulting services. So that's incredibly useful. It's ultra specific, high ticket consulting services. It's a new book, which again is more specific as well. It's unique because it's talking about how to sell high ticket services even if no one's ever heard from you. It's from Frank Kern. Now, you might argue that this is actually technically part of the headline as well. I would say that that's part of the promise, which is then kind of led into with the lead. But this part here mainly is the headline. And there's a sense of urgency as well because it's new, you know, you want to make sure that you jump on this now. It's about selling high ticket consultancy. So it's about, a lot of people are going to be trying to generate this kind of revenue to start with. So there's our headline there. You can see already that should sell you the book straight away. The rest of it is essentially just kind of justifying that cause. We then have what we call a lead. Now there's 6 different types of leads, which is to say that we kind of push someone through and say, this is what the rest of the letter is going to be about. Now, Frank has written this one assuming you know who he is, you know what high-ticket consulting services are, and you know what a book is. Now, that might sound obvious, but let's say you've got a plugin. You might not know what a plugin is. You might not necessarily know what a marketing funnel is, and you might not necessarily know who I, Mike Killen, am. So that's the one end of the spectrum where you're ignorant. You don't know what I'm selling. You don't know how it's going to help. You don't even know what the problem is, and you don't know who I am. And on the other hand, you've got Frank Kern, who everyone knows who Frank Kern is. You obviously know what a book is. You know what high ticket consulting services are. So his lead-in is slightly more direct, and he basically goes over what we call an offer-based lead, which is where he explains exactly what the book is. 68 pages. Battle-tested tactics that are working right now on how to get consulting clients fast, even if nobody's heard from you. So he repeats that statement. Now, what I love here is he actually uses a disclaimer as his lead-in to say that he's got the benefit of doing this for 15 years. He's just an average guy who buys how-to information. Your results will vary. Do not get this book if you're not willing to accept risk and consistent effort. So what he's doing is actually qualifying people out here and saying, this book won't do everything for you, but if you want to consistently put effort in and take a risk, you could get results. I can't guarantee you get results, obviously, but what I like about this is it kind of is a bit of a lead-in to say that people, oh, actually, no, this is me. I am willing to put in the risk. I am willing to put in the hard work. I am willing to put in the effort. So it kind of furthers that resolve and conviction to continue reading on. We then have essentially our sales argument. Now, this is a lot longer. This is the main bulk of the page. And here's what's fantastic about this. You can see here that he starts with a little bit of a promise. You can use the same system to sell all kinds of high-end products and services. He also makes that promise up here. If you like to sell coaching, consulting, or professional services, the most important book you'll ever read. He's consistently making promises throughout the page. An insurance company recently used this, a client in the mortgage company. So he's giving already kind of peppering in those examples, which is typically what we might call a golden thread, which we say if you want to sell high ticket services, insurance companies have done this. Marketing agencies do this. The mortgage agency we worked with done this. And what he does here, this is beautiful. He then lists out benefits. Every single one of these bullet points is a benefit. Benefit, benefit, benefit. 5 ways to get prospects eager to buy. Okay, benefit. Get in front of prospects who can afford you. Benefit. That's a better life. Okay, much better and makes you look like a hero. Benefit. And what he does is the bits in bold are typically the benefits, where to find the best clients. Benefit. He then talks about the features inside that. So, for example, how to eliminate sales resistance and skepticism, that's more of a feature. Okay, that's more of a thing. Page 55 is where it is, but in bold here we've got a simple approach that builds trust and goodwill, another benefit, and he just lists out these benefits. And what I love is he tells you which page it's on, so you can go back and reference this and look at it and think, do you know what, this is how I'm gonna go back and use all this stuff. It clearly exists. It's clearly real. The offer is there. Now, again, this is partly because people know who Frank is. They know what a book is. There doesn't have to be a huge amount of explanation here, but it talks through all of these pieces here. And then this is where we begin to come into some of our closes. So this is a multiple close situation. A false close is when we get, but wait, there's more. You know, Ron Popeil, he's like, okay, so you obviously want to buy this widget, but wait, there's more. There's a bonus couple of features. So it assumes that you've already decided to buy, but I'm actually going to just kind of push you over the edge. And there's a few things here that talk about kind of these false closes. You're also getting, so that's a really strong example of something that's a false close. Frank assumes that I'm ready to buy by the end of this here, but he says, but you're also going to get the advanced stealth process. The best part of it is that it's designed for people who hate selling. So that's another close on top of that. It's a stacked close. So we're stacking these hot cognitions. Oren Klaff talks a lot about that in his book, Pitch Anything, stacking those hot cognitions at the end. You'll know how to make more sales. The next thing you'll know is how to make more sales. So he's closing now repeatedly over and over and over. And then finally, we have this proper close here, which is here's what to do next. The cost of the book is £5.60. You'll get it instantly as a download. There's no catch. This close here is basically designed to finally allow the reader to, do you know what? I'm going to click to buy now. You'll notice as well that if I was to just scan through this, read this disclaimer, here's what I'm getting. It's more than just coaching. When it's okay to be a tech dummy, this one really jumps out at me for some reason. Advanced stealth persuasion system for high-end sales. Designed for people who hate selling. You'll know how to make more sales. Here's what to do next. There's no catch. I could scan that and pretty much be sold to just through scanning these headers here, because what people typically try to do is they go through, they read it, they'll try and find the price, and then they'll go back to the top and reread it from the start. That's what we've seen from our analytics. Some people will go through and read the whole thing. You know, I know that my sales coach Sean Mize, he will often see in his analytics that people do read the whole sales letter. This is the most important part, arguably, is the guarantee. I 100% guarantee you'll love this book and the new video training, or I'll return your $5.60 and let you keep the book and the video training anyway. You're removing and mitigating any risk at all. That's right. You don't have to send anything back. Just email me, call the number of your receipt, and I'll give you back your $5.60 with no questions asked. How's that for fair? The idea is Frank says, I'm so confident you're going to want this. I'm so confident you're going to find it useful. I'm so confident that you're going to love this training. He doesn't even give a date on this, okay? Frank is a man of integrity. Regardless of what people say about him, you know, the man sticks to his guns. And I reckon if you were to email him in 4 years' time and say, look, man, I read that book. It sucks. You know, he would come back to you. I know that I do that. And the idea is I mitigate as much risk as possible. We finally have this big green call to action button. You couldn't miss that for the world. And here's another thing, is the PS, okay? Now the PS is kind of this final wrap up for people who might run right down to the bottom, and it summarizes everything in the book. It summarizes everything on the page. I'm offering you a 68-page book that outlines how to get high-paying clients even if nobody's ever heard to you. The book is £5.60. That there is the entire offer, okay? That there is the entire offer. He'll then just repeat. So you've got the stealth persuasion. Stealth doesn't equate to sneaky. It don't have to, even if you don't like sales, you might associate with sales. He's just repeating those earlier pieces. So this here was the headline and the lead. This here was the sales argument. And then we've got a couple of those closes in there. And on top of that, I'm giving you 90-minute online training free. So you're now starting to get into bonus testing, and it's a limited offer, okay, which is very, very useful because we want to make sure that we've got a sense of urgency behind it. There's no catch. You're not signing up for a trial or a monthly program or anything like that. And if you don't like the book, again, then we've got the guarantee. And then we've got the kind of reiterating the PS again here in the call to action. This sales letter shows you that by spending just some time going through that formula and using the formula of a headline, using a lead in, which is to say, you make an offer, you show the promise, what's the before and after story, or what's the secret or the system, using your sales argument. So the lead in is usually about 10 to 15% of the total copy. And the rest here is probably close to 1,500 words before we start getting to the closes. Using those closes, stacking those closes, and say, look, time is of the essence. You're also getting an advanced 90-minute free training. There's no catch. You'll know how to make more sales. It's specifically designed for people who hate selling. Advanced stealth persuasion, stacking those closes, making the guarantee here the boldest guarantee of the world. He even calls it the boldest guarantee in the world. I love this man. And finally, we wrap up with a little PS saying, thanks very much for reading all the way to the end. I just want to reiterate, and we sum up, we tell them what we've told them through that sales page. There's a few bits and pieces at the bottom. He kind of reestablishes that same disclaimer at the top that he talks about. A few legal bits and pieces. But ultimately, that's why this sales letter works, because it's well written. It's written with emotion. If you go back and look through some of these bullet points, shocking test results. The best thing to sell, offer this type of service before anything else. Why an unusual amount of billionaires and college dropouts are college dropouts, and how you can get all the clients you want even if you have no credentials. Absolutely brilliantly written sales page. If there's anything to learn from this, take that structure and use emotion in your sales writing. Thanks very much, guys. I'm Mike from Sell Your Service, and I'll speak to you later.